Alright, now it's time to talk about how we convert units in science. So to help me make a point, answer this really quick. How many inches are there in 3.2 yards? How many feet are there in 4.71 miles? You can't do it, can you? No, it's tricky. You gotta pull out a calculator, you gotta sit down, you gotta think about it, because there's several different conversions going on. It's really not a very convenient way to make transitions. So in the metric system, we have a lot easier way to convert between units, which is something really important. We can't always measure things in meters. We can't always measure things in kilograms. Sometimes we have to start at one unit and then convert to the other. So the way it works in metric then, how many centimeters are there in 3.2 meters? Well, that's easy. There's 320 centimeters. How many millimeters are there in 4.71 kilometers? Also easy. There's 4,710,000. Okay. So really easy conversion. The numbers stay the same. You're just moving the decimal point. Before we talk too in depth about how to make conversions, let's talk about the different units that we use in the metric system. So mass, that's how we get weight, is measured in grams, which is G. And that's the base unit, so that's where we start off. You can bring that down as small as milligrams or as high as kilograms, so there's different versions of it. Length, we use the meter, which is symbolized with a lowercase m. Okay, and once again, you can have as small as millimeters all the way up to kilometers. And then the last one is volume. So volume we would measure with like a graduated cylinder or even a beaker sometimes. And volume is typically measured in liters. Okay, and you can have milliliters or kiloliters, whatever you need. Another thing you can measure volume in is in cubic measurements. So a very, very common one is a cubic centimeter. And so what that is if you make a cube, 1 cubic centimeter would be the shape of a cube that measures on all of its sides 1 centimeter. And worth noting, the way they came up with milliliter as a volume is they took 1 cubic centimeter and they measured its volume, and that's what they called a milliliter. So this is a fact that you should write down and you should circle because it's going to be really important. 1 cubic centimeter is the exact same thing as 1 milliliter. So if I say we have something that's 4 milliliters in volume, you can say, all right, that's 4 cubic centimeters as well. All right, now for the how-to. Some of you guys are familiar with this. I'm sure you've done it all the way up through middle school. Just a reminder, though, if you've forgotten or need a refresher. There's all kinds of acronyms out there. I use the one that says that King Henry died drinking chocolate milk. So as you're getting used to this system, write this down at the top of your page anytime you're having to make conversions. King Henry died drinking chocolate milk. This space in the middle that I drew, that represents the base unit. Okay, and so that would be the unit with no prefix, so like grams, meters, or liters. Sorry for that funny looking G, but these different prefixes, K stands for kilo, H stands for hecta, this D stands for deca, this D stands for deci, this one centi, and then milli. So that means like this guy right here would represent milliliters or millimeters or milligrams. That guy right there represent decagrams or decameters or decaliters. Typically the most common ones you guys are going to see are going to be kilo, centi, and milli. Rarely will you see hecta, deca, or deci. So just if you're familiar with those three and their placements, you're good. Kilo would be the highest. That would be whatever times the base unit times 1,000. And milli would be the smallest. That would be times 0.001. All right, let's practice this. So we'll write down that King Henry died diagram again. And we'll convert 56.3 milligrams into grams. So what that means is we are starting off with milligrams. Okay, this is milligrams. So that means we're starting with that M. And we're converting it to grams. So grams with no prefix, that means we're going to the base unit, which is that line right there. Okay, so to get from point A to point B, we're going to have to go over 1, 2, 3 places to the left. So that means we take our little decimal right here, and we go 1, 2, 3 places to the left. Okay, and there's that little space now between the decimal and the 5, so we fill that blank in with a 0. So that means in 56.3 milligrams, there is 0.0563 grams. All right, I'll do one more problem with you guys. So if we take a look at the next one, how many kilometers are there in 31 meters? So we're starting off with 31 meters. And you see that there's no decimal written into this one, but we know from math class that there is actually a decimal after that place right there. It's just invisible. We don't consider it. So if we're starting right there at meters, that's our base unit. And this time we're going to kilometers. So we're going to have to move over 1, 2, 3 places to the left again. Take that decimal, 1, 2, 3 places left, which means we put a 0 and then the point. So that means there's 0.031 kilometers in 31 meters. Okay, so at this point, go ahead and pause the video, give those other 3 a shot, and then you can resume the video and I'll put the answers up for you to check. Alright, so there is your final 3 answers right there. So 2,000 milliliters, 310 million millimeters, and 0.053 kilograms. Alright, if you had any questions during the course of these notes, make sure you write them in your notebook. Tomorrow in class, we'll talk about them at the beginning.